Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Great to see you here. My name is Brian Hilger. I look after business planning in our Cloud and Enterprise group. At Microsoft, business planning refers to our business models, our packaging, our pricing, and how our customers ultimately transact the great innovations and technologies that we have. This particular session I'm really excited about because I'm among the first to talk about these particular details for our recently announced Azure Reserved VM Instances. So my goal for this session is to introduce these reserved instances, tell you about the benefits of these particular offerings, and share a little bit more information about how they work so that you'll leave the session with a deeper understanding of what they're all about. So when they start rolling out later this calendar year, you'll be on your way to take advantage of them. Seem okay? Great. So first, everybody in the room knows this, but the spend in the cloud is growing tremendously. This particular data is from IDC in the Futurescape report, and it shows that spending in the cloud will be growing to over $160 billion by 2020, and that then is representing somewhere in the 60 to 70% of total IT spend at that time. It is tremendous growth. But as cloud spend increases, it raises the bar and it raises the requirements for Microsoft as well as for our customers to not only continue, of course, to optimize the workloads and the infrastructure from a technology perspective, but also to do a better job on managing costs. And that includes better tools for forecasting, and includes better capabilities for budgeting, and also is all about, in many ways, reducing costs while delivering those capabilities to your business. And that's how I'm going to start this discussion, is really talking about how Azure helps save customers money. And what I'm going to talk about first are things that we're doing today, and then we're adding these reserved instances to the list as we go forward. So first, you could think of this starting with our price match commitment. This is something that we stated back in 2014 in terms of matching the prices of AWS on the base level IaaS services, compute, storage, networking, bandwidth, and other capabilities as well. In many cases, we're leading on the cost side, and when we're not, and Amazon does something, we are very quick to match. So customers know that they're getting the best cost in the cloud with Azure. The second component relates to other products and services that we have that help reduce the costs in the cloud. We have in preview what we call our low priority virtual machines. These are accessible through the batch protocol. This provides savings in the 60 to 80% range off of the on-demand price. And that discount depends on what sort of virtual machine you're running, whether it's a Linux or a Windows Server workload. This is something that is great for particular projects that may not be time sensitive. These low priority virtual machines they're like an evictable virtual machine, so you get a great low price as a result. We also have recently launched in preview our B-series virtual machines. These are a burstable core virtual machine that enable you to get a great low price on virtual machines that meet that particular profile. And finally, a whole range of other solutions such as our capabilities and storage that we're previewing, and a range of other innovations that we have to lower costs. Third, we think about overall cost and governance tool sets. We've been talking a lot this week about Azure cost management capabilities. This came in from our acquisition of Cloudin recently. And we're taking the lion's share of those capabilities, putting them in the platform at no cost for managing your Azure spend. And this helps with budgeting, forecasting, and overall managing your costs in the cloud. Additionally, we have an Azure Advisor capability, which helps provide best practice information for optimizing your workloads, both from a technical standpoint, as well as from a cost management standpoint. So we're really excited about how these capabilities help you provide better cost management and cost and governance capabilities in managing your spend on Azure. And finally, what I'd like to think of as a set of compelling offers that we have on the Azure platform. The first one here I reference is the Azure Hybrid Benefit. By show of hands, who here is familiar with the Azure Hybrid Benefits for Windows Server? Okay, a good number of folks. I have a slide on this, I'll cover in more detail, but the Azure Hybrid Benefit helps you leverage your existing Windows Server investments in your on-premises environment and gets leading prices in the cloud in Azure for those Windows Server workloads. Next, with SQL Server, it has license mobility, and that helps you take your SQL Server workloads to the cloud without having to pay again for SQL Server. We have a range of Visual Studio subscriptions, a number of which come with Azure credits to help you get started for sort of testing out new capabilities or dev and test environments more broadly. And finally, this week we've been talking about this new Azure free account. We've had this $200 free credit for customers getting started on Azure for some time. And this week we talked about how we've broadened our Azure free account to have, in many cases, 12 months or perpetually free capabilities brought together for your account in Azure. So on this foundation of cost-saving capabilities, I'm really excited to talk now about the new Azure Reserved VM Instances. So what are these? Well, first, let's start with the basics. It lets you reserve virtual machines in advance. You choose a 1-year term or a 3-year term, and you will pick the particular VM type and the region that you want to operate in, and you're able to use that particular virtual machine, and that's already paid for as a part of that reservation. The rollout will start in October next month, and we should complete the rollout globally before the end of the calendar year. So what do we see as the primary benefits of the reserved VM instances? First, we'll talk a lot about this, are the cost savings. When compared to the on-demand or the pay-as-you-go rates on Azure, the effective hourly rate of the reserved instances will be as much as 82% off of that on-demand rate when combined with the Azure Hybrid Benefit that I mentioned before. So of course, part number one about reserved instances is getting the compute capability that you need with the significant cost savings. But there's more than that. There's a key trade-off that customers are looking to make between optimization and predictability. Here, with the reserved instances, this is about providing that predictability. And so these will be more suited for workloads that you have a generally good sense of what the infrastructure requirements will be on an ongoing basis, so you can have that predictability, and it provides you prioritized capacity in our Azure regions. Finally, predictability is great. We also deliver more flexibility for our customers. We're really excited about how simple it is to get started with reservations, and then the degrees of flexibility that we're providing to acknowledge that, plans change. And as things evolve, we want to make sure that you can adjust your reservations, and we'll talk more about each of these 3 pillars in further detail. Okay, so that's the basic primer. The reserved VM instances rollout completing before the end of the calendar year, providing great cost savings, predictability, and incredible flexibility for our customers. So what I'm going to do now, very simply, is I'm going to walk through each of these in further detail and share more about what's on the horizon. So first, when looking just at the reserved instance pricing, talking about providing more cloud at less cost. You see, in this particular example, it's an M-series instance. The tall blue bar represents the effective hourly rate of that M-series instance. And the 72% off, the smaller bar here, shows you the effective hourly rates when purchased under a 3-year reservation. So that's up to 72% savings. Now you might be thinking, Brian, is this some outlier? Why did you pick this particular series? 72% sounds great. Are they all that high? Well, let's take a look at some of the other more typical virtual machine instances as well. So first, to orient on the slide, the gray bars represent the effective hourly rate for using on-demand or the pay-as-you-go instances when you're just going to run your virtual machines. And the blue bar represents the effective hourly rate of that same virtual machine instance when purchased under reservation. So with the DV2 series, this is a mainstream, general purpose virtual machine SKU. You see the gray bar there is the on-demand price. 1-year term saves you 46% off of that effective price, and the 3-year term saves you 65% off of that effective price. The EV3 series, we're excited about. It's a newer SKU. It's our high memory capabilities. The one-year term on these saves you 42%, and the three-year term saves 62% off of those effective hourly rates. The F series are our compute-optimized SKUs with lower memory. The savings here on the 1 year are 37-38% for 1 year, and then in the 60-61% for the 3-year term. And finally, the M series that I referenced before, 42% off of the effective price with the 1-year reservation, and the same 72% on the 3-year. Now, this is still just a representative sample. Of course, we have a wide range of different virtual machine types. You can expect a wide range of reserved instance offerings to match each of those types. So that's what we're talking about here. Dramatic savings for your more predictable workloads where an upfront commitment makes sense. Now, I mentioned briefly the Azure hybrid benefit for Windows Server previously. At its core, this is about leveraging your existing investments that you've already made on premises with Windows Server, and in particular, Windows Server with software assurance. The idea is if you're already paying Microsoft for your license and software assurance, you don't need to pay us again when you're using Windows Server in Azure. How it works is for each server that you have licensed with Windows Server Standard Edition, you are able to apply that license to Azure and receive up to 2 virtual machines for a total of up to 16 cores. And for those virtual machines, you will pay only the base VM rate, i.e. the Linux rate. You will receive the Windows Server instance on Azure at that lower Linux rate. And with the Windows Server Standard license, you'll fully apply that license to the cloud and no longer use that license on premises. Now, with Windows Server Data Center Edition, the benefit is even greater. So for each server that you have licensed with Data Center, it gives you the same up to 2 virtual machines, up to 16 cores total, where you're paying just the base VM rates. But that benefit in Azure is entirely additive to the on-prem rights that exist with Windows Server Data Center. With Windows Server Data Center, many of you running Windows Server workloads, you're probably in a highly virtualized environment with the data center offering. It could be on the Hyper-V platform or other platforms. You can keep that environment intact and extend into Azure at a dramatically lower price with the Azure hybrid benefit for Windows Server. Helps really maximize those value and the value that you've contributed to Microsoft, and it's been available for our pay-as-you-go SKUs for quite some time, and I'll say the usage has been really taking off, and will absolutely be available to work with the reserved VM instances as well. So combined, Azure hybrid benefit and the reserved instances provides an incredibly great value prop and the ability to have basically the lowest price for Windows Server instances in the cloud. And so we see how this works together. The hybrid benefit on its own saves, let's say, 40%. It will depend on the particular SKU and region and a range of other factors. Let's say it's a 40% savings for the Azure hybrid benefits. And when you layer in the Azure Reserved VM instances, that takes the total savings for that virtual machine on an effective hourly rate down to an 82% savings. So if the gray bar is the pay-as-you-go rates, with the reserved instances and the Azure hybrid benefit working together, that takes that price down, 82% off of that particular SKU. Now, these are the same numbers I shared before in terms of the typical savings across the different virtual machine families that we have. Let me click and layer in now how this works with the Azure hybrid benefit. And so you see again, the gray bars are the effective hourly rates for the on-demand SKUs. And the yellow bars now represent reserved instances and the Azure hybrid benefit working together. And so with DV2, that's a 65% savings on the 1-year term and a 74 up to 82% savings on the 3-year term. With the EV3, again, these are the high memory optimized SKUs. The savings are in the 67-68% range on the 1-year reservations, 73 to 77% on the 3-year reservations. With F-Series, it's 56 to 66% off on the 1 year, up to 78% on the 3-year term. And finally, with these, the M series, it's a 58% and an 80% savings on the 1-year and 3-year reservation effective hourly rates, respectively. Obviously, we're excited about this. We think it can dramatically help optimize your investments in Azure. So that's about the cost savings. The second component here is about budget predictability and prioritized capacity. Of course, with these reservations, you're making a 1- and 3-year commitment, you're paying up front for those reservations, and so that provides very clear predictability for that component of your workload. And you can buy these with confidence knowing that when you go to deploy against the reservations that you have prioritized capacity. And we provide, even with this predictability, the ability to ensure that the benefits from the reservations are coming from where the budget was derived. And this is how you can help further manage your budget by ensuring that the reservation itself is applied to where the money came from in the first place. I'll talk more about that on the next slide to really clarify what I'm talking about here. So we talk about prioritized capacity. As you know, Azure has many, many regions globally to meet your unique requirements. 36 live now, 6 more that have been announced on the roadmap. And with the Azure Reserved Instances, it provides prioritized capacity in those regions. Now, this will be available both through our enterprise agreements and on Azure.com, or what we sometimes refer to as our Web Direct channel. It'll be available for customers in all countries on the enterprise agreement. Now, there will be some restrictions in some countries in the Azure.com approach, and stay tuned for more details on that as we get closer to our rollout. And that rollout that I mentioned will cover the public Azure regions. That timeframe excludes what we refer to as our sovereign clouds, US government, Germany, and China in particular. Those are coming. I don't have a particular timeframe for those, but we are committed to ensuring that this is available first across all of our public regions with that prioritized capacity, and then extending to our sovereign cloud regions as well. Okay, so I mentioned flexibility and ensuring that the reservation benefit comes from where the budget comes from. Kind of a confusing concept. Let me walk through that in a bit more detail. So at the top level here is this notion of your Azure enrollment. And you may have one subscription in your Azure enrollment, you may have 100, you may have more, or somewhere in the middle. I have a simple example here, and let's say that you have one subscription for 3 departments for which you're managing Azure. You have subscription A for your HR department, you have subscription B for your IT department, and you have subscription C for your finance department. And when you first buy your reservation, you can assign that reservation to either float at the enrollment level or to be pinned to a particular subscription. What that means is if you let it float at the enrollment level, that the usage from any and all of your subscriptions can be offset by the reservations that you've purchased. So if you buy one reservation for a particular virtual machine type, whether it's subscription A, B, or C, if that reservation is pinned, is floating at that enrollment level, that usage can offset against any of those subscriptions, and that way you'll basically have this floating reservation that will offset against any and all usage against that reservation. But if you receive budget from a particular department, in this case, let's say the finance department has a particular project where they want these reserved instances, and they provided the budget to fund those reserved instances. Well, you really don't want the HR department or the IT department to use what was budgeted by and funded by the finance department. So in that particular scenario, you would pin the reservation to subscription C, and then the usage of the finance department, and only the usage from the finance department that's in that subscription, would be offset by that reservation. And of course, you could have a wide range of different reservations pinned at the enrollment and or various subscriptions. It's very flexible. But in this simple example, it's applied to the finance department, and therefore the benefit of the reservation is applied to the area from which the budget was derived. And you can set it up front. You can change it at any time. It's very flexible, and it's very easy to do. So finally, the third component here is about the flexibility and how we're balancing flexibility and simplicity. It's easy to make something simple, but it's hard to do something that's simple with the right level of flexibility to meet your particular requirements. And so we're excited with what we're announcing as a part of this, and in many ways, it's a really core differentiator relative to other options in the market. So first of all, it's simple. When you get started, it's integrated in the Azure portal. You select the virtual machine type, the region, and the duration, and you are on your way. Additionally, for those of you that have made a monetary commitment to Azure, I'm excited to let you know that that monetary commitment can be used to purchase these reservations. It's a really exciting capability here to make sure you're making the best use of the budget that you have on Azure. And finally, as plans change, you can exchange or cancel your reservations with a high degree of flexibility. Now, I'm going to walk through each of these in further detail to elaborate what I'm talking about here. But I find that before I do that, it makes sense to take a quick pause and just share a little bit more information about how the reservations work. So I talked about you select the region, the VM type, and the duration. I didn't mention if you need to select whether it's a Windows Server instance or just a VM instance. With the Azure Reserved VM Instances, we've taken that complexity out. It's one reservation for a particular type, and it offsets the usage whether it's a Windows Server instance or whether it is a Linux instance. It's the same one type of reservation, offsets whether independent of what the operating system is in that instance. So here's how it works. The yellow bars on the slide represent active virtual machine usage. Very simple example, let's say that there are 4 virtual machines. 3 of them are E2 v3s that are in our US West. One of them is a D4 v3. And the first 2 are running Windows Server. The bottom 2 are running a different operating system, such as a flavor of Linux. Now, in the first case, it's a Windows Server virtual machine that is taking advantage of the Azure hybrid benefit that I referenced before. So before reservations, as you would expect, the customer in this scenario is paying just the base VM hourly rate. By base VM, I mean the Linux rate. They're not paying for the Windows Server because they're using the Azure hybrid benefit. The second row is that same type of virtual machine, and for whatever reason, they haven't elected to use the Azure hybrid benefit. We hope that they do, but in this scenario, just for illustrative purposes, they haven't. And in that case, the customer is paying the Windows Server VM hourly rate, just as you would expect. They're running a Windows Server virtual machine, they're paying the Windows Server hourly rate. In the third example and the fourth example, these are both non-Windows Server virtual machines, and they're paying that base VM hourly rate. And without having to redeploy, without having to change anything with what is running in Azure, the customer now purchases reservations. And these are now sitting in the reservation inventory, and the Azure platform does all the matchmaking for you automatically. So you don't have to do anything different with your usage. Your reservation inventory sits here, and Azure manages the matchmaking to help ensure that the usage is offset in the right way before you are billed. So I'm going to go through each row so you see how that works. So the first one, as you know, is a Windows Server virtual machine with the Azure hybrid benefit turned on. And the reservation that was purchased, let's say in this example, there were 3 of the E2 v3 virtual machines also in US West that were purchased. And there's no Windows Server version or Linux version, it's just the base VM reservation. And since the customer in this first row is using the Azure hybrid benefit, that reservation offsets the cost of all of that usage for that virtual machine, and the ongoing charges are then 0. In the second example, it's a Windows Server instance, but the customer hasn't elected the Azure hybrid benefit. That second reservation for that same type of virtual machine also makes that matchmaking match, but in this case, it offsets that base VM image cost, and there's the hourly Windows Server rate that is a market rate that is then billed through to the invoice. So if you're using a Windows Server instance, that base VM reservation offsets the base VM usage, and then there's just an hourly charge on the Windows component. And again, the Azure hybrid benefit fully offsets that hourly charge for Windows Server if taking advantage of that program. In the third case here, it is a third reservation, also an E2 v3 in US West, and that is a Linux instance, and therefore the reservation offsets the entire cost of that virtual machine, and the ongoing charges are 0. And the fourth is there just for illustrative purposes. It's a D4 v3. There's no virtual machine reservation in the inventory that matches that particular type in that particular region, and therefore the charges are unchanged from what they were before. So again, behind the scenes, the reservation system is doing that matchmaking. You're going to purchase just that base VM reservation, and it offsets that base VM usage, whether it's Windows Server or whether it's Linux. Okay, so let's talk more about the purchase experience. I've been speaking with some people here in this room about how difficult some things could be to buy from Microsoft. With reservations, that is not true. We're making it very straightforward to purchase. It's integrated with the Azure portal experience. And you will select the region, the virtual machine size, and that means basically type and the number of cores. So like in the prior example, it was an E2 v3 in US West. How many? Then whether you want the 1 or the 3-year term, and then you're able to purchase it here right, integrated within the Azure portal experience. And then that starts that matchmaking process that we talked about before. So really excited about how we're modernizing how you purchase these sort of offers from Microsoft, and reservations is one of these key ways. I mentioned monetary commitment before. How many customers here have an enterprise agreement with Microsoft? Okay, I'd say that's about half of the room. If you're using Azure, you've probably made some sort of monetary commitment to Microsoft for Azure. And as you're using Azure, that burns down your Azure monetary commitment. And that's what this blue line is meant to represent. It's stylized. I'm sure your usage isn't perfectly linear like this, but you get the idea. You make a monetary commitment, and as you're using Azure, the remaining balance it goes down. We're really excited that at any time, you're able to use your monetary commitment to purchase reservations. And that'll be 1 or 3-year reservations. And that will be even if the term of that reservation spans beyond the time frame of your enrollment with Microsoft. So we're making sure that every penny you provided as a part of monetary commitment, you can put to use with the reserved instances. So that'll come with the launch of reserved instances. Now, something else that I wanted to take this opportunity to reference is that we will also be rolling out later this calendar year a new monetary commitment purchase option. Now, this is not specific to reserved instances, but it's related to monetary commitment, which is related to how reserved instances are purchasing. So I wanted to bring it in here. But you can choose for future purchases. You'll be able to choose whether you want that monetary commitment to be on the typical annual approach, or whether you want it to extend over the entire remaining length of your enrollment. And this is designed to help ensure that your monetary commitment investments are entirely utilized. You can span it over the entire length of the enrollment, not just 1 year. That would then have to be forfeited going into the 2nd year. And at any time, you're able to use those funds to purchase reservations, even if those reservation terms extend beyond the term of the monetary commitment. Seems pretty good, right? Great. Well, thank you. So we've talked about how it works. We've talked about how they can be purchased. Now I want to talk about the great levels of flexibility that we're building into the reservations. So first I'll talk about how they can be exchanged, and then I will talk about how they can be canceled if that is what the requirement is. So at the core, our goal here is to enable you to exchange your reserved instances without any penalty. So we have this example here. I like the animation, so I'm going to walk through it. So let's say you're working on with your team on a particular project. And this particular project in this example is designing and building a green pickup truck. And to design and build this green pickup truck, there's a certain set of infrastructure requirements that are then purchased and provisioned in Azure using the Azure Reserved VM Instances. And that's what the second diagram is intended to mean. But project needs change. And hey, let's say it's no longer about this green pickup, but it's really about this sporty red hatchback. Project needs changes. Wow, the infrastructure that we need for this particular project is changing as well. And so with the Azure Reserved VM Instances, you can change your reservations with no penalty to meet the new infrastructure requirements as the project needs evolve. So how does it work? You see the text on the bottom basically spells it out, and I'll walk through that. So if you are in the middle of your reserved instance term, whether it's 1 year or 3 year, and you need to change, you will receive a prorated refund based on the unused amount. And when that unused amount is applied towards the purchase of new reserved instances of any term, then there is no penalty for you in purchasing those virtual machine instances, reserved instances. So again, the prorated portion based on what's unused, fully applied to the purchase of the next set of reserved instances to meet the new project requirements. Now, let's say there's something more dramatic where you no longer need reservations on Azure. You can cancel at any time if you find that you no longer need the compute capacity that you've purchased. So let's start with our example here. Again, green pickup truck, designing this great truck, provisioned the virtual machines as needed, and something miraculous happens and the project actually finishes ahead of schedule. It sometimes happens, and you no longer need the compute reservations that you've purchased. Well, you're able to go into Azure and work with Microsoft and cancel those reservations. And you see in the example here on the slide that there's no longer infrastructure running in Azure. And in this case, you will also receive that prorated refund based on the unused portion, but it is minus an early termination fee. It's a modest fee, and we'll be finalizing those details as we get a bit closer to launch. So again, if you're going to exchange the reservation for different reservations, you're able to take the unused amount and apply that fully to the new purchases. If you're looking to cancel, you have that same prorated amount refunded, but with an early termination fee. So lots of flexibility here. Okay, so now I get to be really pointy about how the Azure Reserved VM Instances differ from what you see from the folks at AWS. First, the Azure Hybrid Benefit for Windows Server is a unique offering for Azure, and that provides the most cost-effective way to run Windows Server in the cloud, and that's only on Azure. And as we had referenced before, it's a simple purchase experience. I've gone through it on the AWS side. We've charted it all out. There's a lot of different decisions and different things along the way. With Azure, it's much simpler, and we showed the screenshot of what that actual purchase experience is like. So we're really excited about that. And further, it's hard to capture in a screenshot, but again, you're just picking the base VM image, and if you're deploying all different sorts of operating systems, that one reservation matches against all those different OS types. Additionally, that notion of ensuring that the benefit of the reservation is matched to where you got the budget from, we're able to have the reservation float at that enrollment level, or you can pin it to particular subscriptions that you have within your enrollment, so that the usage of a particular subscription is what is used to offset, is what is offset by that reserved instance. So that if you got budget from a particular department for the reserved instances, the benefits of those reserved instances will flow to that department. Next are the areas of flexibility that we were just covering. On the exchange capabilities, you're able to take that full value and apply it to your next purchase of reservations. And on cancellation, it's very straightforward. You will know what you get from Microsoft. You don't have to deal with some sort of secondary marketplace or something like that to deal with reservations that you no longer need. Now, on the exchange, there's an area I wanted to talk about here, and it relates to price. We aren't disclosing all the specific pricing just yet. Those details will come out as we roll it out in the coming months. But these are going to be matching the standard RI prices that you see from AWS, the 1 and the 3 year. Now, if you want that kind of flexibility from AWS, you're looking at those convertible RIs. Those convertible RIs, they're only available on the 3 year instances, and they are a meaningfully higher price. So that what I want you to take away from these last 2 rows is that we're providing flexibility that is comparable, in some ways exceeds that of the convertible RIs at those standard RI prices on Azure. So to begin the wrap up here, why choose Azure and why Azure Reserved Instances in particular? Well, we talked about most cost effective for Windows Server. We talked about the flexibility of being able to exchange or cancel your reserved instances at any time. We've talked about the greater degrees of simplicity that we're able to deliver and the prioritized capacity, so you have high confidence knowing that the compute resources will be there for you when you need them. So we've talked about the ways that we're saving money with Azure. We've talked about the new reserved instances that are coming soon. And just to wrap things up here, I wanted to give a quick pointer to a study that we've completed that shows not only just the sort of cost savings here, but really the total economic impact of choosing Azure for our customers. And this is across not just the IaaS that we were talking about, but also the broader set of platform as a service capabilities that we have. And I'm not going to cover the details here in depth, but the study is available. It can be found on Microsoft.com/Azure. And it shows choosing Azure provides an ROI of 435% on the IaaS area and 466% on the platform as a service basis. And this is based on actual studies that have been done on the ROI that has been determined from customers using Azure. So really excited about this particular study. If you want to dig in and understand what Azure can mean for your organization in terms of saving costs. We have some resources here for you to learn more. And there's an Azure Reserved Instance page. We have the hybrid benefit that we talked about, how to get going with Windows Server workloads. We also have a set of pricing pages, a pricing calculator, all sorts of resources for you to better understand the costs of running Azure. And so with that, we have some time. I'm happy to take questions. I'll encourage you to complete a survey evaluation of this particular session. You see the URL here, or you can do that through the mobile app. And so I think we'll have the microphones active here. Looks like we have a question here. Can we turn on the aisle mics, please? Are we live now?
We've designated it as reserved versus pay-as-you-go.
Great. So the question was, since it cut off, is where in the Azure portal can I see which instances are reserved or not? And I'd like to start by saying that your deployments and your usage of your virtual machines is separate from the reservations of those virtual machines. So you're not going to deploy a reserved instance. You're going to deploy a virtual machine, just like you do today. The reservations will be a separate inventory that you manage. I can't say exactly where in the Azure portal that is. Those details will be coming soon. But it'll be a straightforward interface for you to manage those reservations. So again, it's not a matter of which virtual machines are deployed as reserved instances. It's about managing the RI inventory.
I guess the question is if I've reserved a whole bunch of instances and then I want to make some changes to my existing machines, how do I make sure that I've still got those instances that are covered versus the ones that I'm now no longer going to be utilizing?
Yeah. And so basically you want to make sure that you have the virtual machines set up in the right way and you have your reservations set up in the right way to maximize that matchmaking within the Azure portal. So I don't have more details. Be integrated into the Azure portal with the appropriate management tools to help achieve that for you. I'll take the next one here, and then we'll come over to this row next.
Will this be available under CSP?
So will it be available under CSP? We have full intent to provide reserved instances through the CSP channel. It will not be available at launch in CSP. We are working hard to bring it into CSP as quickly as possible. Your next question would certainly be, when would it come? I don't have an answer for you today. Thank you. Take a question here. Oh, there are 3 people with the same CSP question. We know it's our partner channel, of course, is critically important. CSP remains the way that we will make that work for Azure, and we're committed to delivering that as quickly as we can.
Have you did some analysis on this compared to Azure Stack? So I started looking at Azure Stack, and I definitely see that that comes out cheaper than buying the pay-as-you-go model in Azure. But with this reserved instance and hybrid usage, are you kind of on par with the Azure Stack investment, do you know?
Yeah, so let's step back from the question in terms of Azure versus Azure Stack.
I know there's different use cases, but just in terms of cost. So we looked at Azure Stack as, okay, it's much cheaper for our customers, again, being an MSP.
Yeah.
But the way it looks now is that, might as well just go straight to Azure.
Yeah, and so for those that aren't as familiar with Azure Stack, it sounds like you are very familiar with. Azure Stack is an integrated system that provides Azure consistent software with specially designed hardware from our OEM partners for our customers and partners to host Azure basically within their data center environment and provide Azure consistent services. Obviously, it's a very different use case. So whether it's a partner such as yourself or whether it's an enterprise or different sort of entity, with Azure Stack, our price is really just a small portion of that overall cost. So there are hourly meters in Azure Stack that are a dramatic reduction off of what it is on Azure proper. And that's because our customers, or in your case, our partners, are the ones acquiring the hardware, managing the power and the cooling and the real estate and the people to actually make that all run. And those costs are going to far dominate whatever the Azure Stack meter prices are. And therefore, it will really depend on your economics in terms of how that compares to Azure relative to Azure Stack. And so we expect when it comes to providing the sort of the best cost solutions overall, that the public cloud offerings, such as Azure proper, will typically provide that lowest total cost approach. And Azure Stack is designed to provide competitive costs as well, but for different scenarios.
Yeah, it's a fantastic program, by the way. I've been really looking for it, so thanks for that.
Great, really excited to hear that. Let's see, who is next? We'll go here and then back over there next.
Yeah, I'd like to say it's great. It's great you guys are adding this. I just had a feature request that it would be great to be able to apply the hybrid use benefit to existing machines. Because it appears you can only do that at the time of creation.
Yes.
But it'd be great to be able to be flexible and selectively apply it.
It sounds great. I will happily say stay tuned for more information on that. Okay, we'll go over here.
It's like there's termination fees, but is there initial costs or fees to get started with this program?
No, there's no initial fee to get started with reservations other than the purchase of the reservation itself.
Okay, can I ask a question? Can I ask a question here?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry,
what about
I didn't even see that microphone. Thank you.
Microsoft Azure Government, what's the play there?
Yes, and so we have business intent and technical intent to include reserved instances in all of our regions, including our sovereign cloud regions. I referenced US Gov before. Azure Government is the more proper way, so thank you for that. I don't have a timeline for when that will be coming into Azure Government. So you'll have to stay tuned on a particular time frame, but we absolutely have intent to bring the reserved instance capabilities into our sovereign clouds.
Okay, so that will come later.
It will definitely lag
Okay.
the initial launch, which will focus on the public, non-government, non-sovereign regions in Azure.
A quick question, for pay-as-you-go customers.
Yes.
If you're going to reserve, then I assume it's going to be prepaid for a year or 3 years, like on the credit card. If you do swap it out for a lesser cost virtual machine, you just get that credit back on the credit card? Is that how?
So in terms of the exchange, if you have a prorated amount,
Right.
and the thing that you're purchasing, in order to avoid all those fees, it has to be that amount or greater in terms of the purchase.
Okay.
So I'll just use round numbers. Let's say there's a $100 one-year reservation, and 6 months in, you're looking to swap that out with a different reservation. So you'd have a $50 prorated amount.
Yeah.
The thing that you buy would have to be $50 or more.
Okay, so you can go up to get the prorated amount
That's
funded.
right. That's right.
For going up, but if you
Yeah.
go down, you don't get that money.
It would be
Okay.
it would be subject to the early termination fee that I referenced on the
Oh,
cancellation.
okay. All right, thanks.
Yes.
Maybe in the same vein as the question from the gentleman previously, but assigning the reserved instances to a VM, also a resource group, putting it there instead of subscription level is really important.
Okay.
I have too many independent projects and groups that have all their own budget, so
Okay.
subscription level is way too high.
So even at the
Maybe
subscription level, it's too high.
Yeah, it's
You want to
way
be able
too
to
high.
pin it to a specific resource group or
At
even
least resource
particular
groups,
virtual machine.
FVMs. Yeah.
So we're not going to have that at the initial launch, but I have a couple here. We'll make sure that we take that input into the planning process for reserved instances. So thank you for the comment. Another question here?
Yeah, this might be a feature request. The thing is that now we have RI management going to come into Azure portal, but somewhere I felt that that will be more appropriate now since it's not there with CSP. It will be more appropriate to be in the EA portal. Then you have cloud in another portal. You're getting that, right?
Yes. So you're saying there's too many different places for me to go to manage my stuff. And
Cost management. So
for cost management in particular.
EA portal, CSP, Azure portal.
Yeah.
They're now cloud in. So
Yeah, so I would basically say that we are committed to streamlining the experiences that you're referencing. You'll have to stay tuned for more information on that. But thank you for the comment. I will take that as input into the planning cycle.
sure, thank you.
So I'm going to officially close the session. I'll be available here for as long as needed to answer further questions. I just want to make sure that the next session could get set up and underway. So with that, thank you so much for your engagement this morning and your time. Look forward to continuing to work with you as we roll out the Azure Reserved Instances. Thank you.